Hi Gemini, welcome to your October 2019 reading. Welcome to my channel. I was going to say if you're new here, you're probably new here because these are the first videos for the zodiac signs. I've been reading for several years now, but I have shifted now from Facebook Lives, where I was reading daily for the collective, to readings for the zodiac signs here on YouTube so that I can reach a greater audience. So I'm very happy that you are here. Welcome, welcome. I did start these readings a couple days ago. I'm sorry that they are late. This is the first time that I've tried to do all of the zodiac signs, and I do deal with chronic pain, so it's difficult to sit for a long period of time. Yeah, sorry. Just looking at your overarching energy right now. Anyways, so I had been using some other decks, and all of a sudden it was like, Gemini needs some goddess energy. And regardless of your gender, whether you're male, female, gender non-conforming, you do you, boo. But anyone can embody the energy of the goddess, and I get the sense that Gemini needs some healing right now. We shall see what comes up. But yeah, so when I was meditating on it, I experienced some tightness in my chest, some anxious energy, and what came through was the moon card. Okay, so this is going into the realm of the shadow, as everyone is doing for October right now, and really looking. So it's kind of like when the full moon comes, right? Those can be really emotional times, and it's because the sun is sitting opposite in the sky to the moon and illuminating it fully. So we're looking at the things that we have put into our shadow, which is not separate from us. The shadow lives inside of us, but the reason why it feels shadowy is that it's actually made up of these aspects of ourselves that we used to embody, and then at some point, for some reason in our lives, we thought we had to reject them in order to survive, and that's on a very primal brain level. So, for example, if you were a very talkative person, but it was very frustrating for overwhelmed parents and they shamed you for being talkative and made you be quiet a lot, or in your peer group at school, you got shushed in the classroom, whatever it was, you might end up moving through the world with a false self, which is maybe shy, very quiet, when the true self has been pushed into the shadow. So right now, everyone is going through in October, apparently, because I'm more than halfway through the readings, and it's like, hey, shadow card, hey, moon card, over and over again. We're doing that work. The beautiful thing about what's happening for you is that the clouds are really starting to part, and this Five of Swords energy represents it presents you with a choice. Are you going to be the one that came away? Because air energy tends to be the realm of the mind. Sorry, air is swords. The realm of the mind, very Gemini. But we have an option here because a conflict, the feeling of conflict. Sorry, there's many downloads happening right now. There's lots of messages for you. There was a feeling of conflict, feeling conflicted inside and outside, this potentially in romantic relationship or within family, but feeling that there's been tension for a while. But as the clouds start to part and we see that blue sky, there's an invitation here to really, really make a choice here. Are we going to be the one that is totally gutted about the situation and leaves feeling absolutely terrible? Are we going to be the individual right here who walks away, throws the swords down and goes, I wash my hands of this, I don't want to be a part of it, but still doesn't feel particularly good? Or are we going to be this figure here who actually picks up swords that have been thrown down by the two other figures and goes, well, I can look at this situation and I can learn some lessons here, so I'm going to pick up these three because they're still good, and I'm going to leave the rest. So that is the opportunity. Whew, yeah, when it gets really tight in my chest, that's when I know that it's starting to flow through. Yeah. Excuse me. Oh my God. Oh, Gemini. Wow. Big tension there. Anyways, as you do your shadow work and you start to illuminate the parts of yourself that I get the feeling that maybe, Gemini, you haven't done shadow work before. That you haven't really wanted to look there before, which is interesting because I just did the Taurus read and it's like, holy moly, we've done a lot of shadow work. And, you know, it never really ends. It never really ends, but we get better at it, right? So Gemini, if it's your first time going into that Piscean, watery energy of the moon, especially if you struggled with the Piscean full moon a few weeks ago, that's okay. It makes sense. Do know that you are divinely guided by the High Priestess. So she's sitting in front of this curtain here, and you see there's lots of water behind. So she actually represents, and again, she's got the 2 energy, so balance, Libra season, balancing of the scales. Can't have the dark without the light, can't have the light without the dark. She is your divine guide as you move through the realm of the shadow and you shine a light onto the gems that are hidden there, because they're things that are actually really, really good about ourselves to be integrated. It's okay to have an opinion or be talkative and outspoken. It's okay to be rambunctious or opinionated or whatever it is that has been pushed away into the shadow. It's okay to take those back, reclaim them, and integrate them. And the High Priestess is your guide. So she's the archetype that you can focus on right now. It's really good that she came up as the overarching energy. Sorry, I've got a tickle in my throat. Because she is both your guide and is you. So you guide yourself. Archetypes are simply inspiration. They represent energies that we can choose to embody. So this is what we want to do, right? So Gemini, I hope that helps in terms of your overarching energy if you're feeling some anxiety about going in and doing that shadow work. So we're going to go to our Psychic Tarot by John Holland, this one right here. And we are going to ask for some spirit guidance for Gemini for October 2019. What does Gemini need to know for the month of October? Making it plain, making it clear. What does Gemini need to know? Ooh, well, that's a good one. Well, they're all good, even the hard ones, because they make us think. Ooh, yeah. Whoa, all right. Got some chakra healing happening. What does Gemini need to know? Month of October 2019. Messages for Gemini. Oopsie daisy. Just disappeared here. Screen turned off. Recording this on the computer. I'm hoping to get a better camera soon. Oh my goodness, cards all over the place. Okay. Oh my. Alright. So, yeah, there was some challenge stuff. There was some challenge. Beautiful. Okay. So, Gemini. Lovely, lovely Gemini. I have many Geminis in my life. I also have Gemini in my chart. That's my moon. So, yeah, definitely vibe with the Gemini energy sometimes. So, yeah. So, essentially right now you are in that period of, I don't know if you're doing your shadow work or if you're just like tiptoeing into it, but you recognize that it's a necessity. And you also are, even though it might not be something that you've been willing to do or an area that you've been willing to venture to before, I get the sense that you are taking a much more spiritually mature approach than perhaps you have in the past when faced with challenging situations. There is this desire sometimes to sort of just flitter away from, I don't even know if that's a word, but sort of an avoidance thing, in a very like, I'm gonna gloss over it, everything's okay, like trying to keep my energy up, very much in the mind, but like think positive, think positive, think positive, and that is actually a denial of your process. So it's gonna make it worse when it comes back around, because these lessons karmically come back around over and over and over again until we finally learn the lesson that we were supposed to learn. Trust me, I know this from learning things the hard way over and over and over again. So you really feel that. So if that's what's happening, just remember that you are divinely guided and supported by your High Priestess energy, and this will become easier if you step into that role and you're like, yeah, I'm a boss, queen, or king going into that energy of the high priestess. I am the ruler of the underworld. Not quite. I claim my shadow. I claim my shadow and I integrate it because ultimately I want to come out of this back into the light, but I want to do it for good as opposed to avoiding it and having to come back here over and over again. And there's so the purple border is actually the spiritual realm, which is pretty neat, and it's the 4 energy, so it's all about foundation, and the card itself says foundation and achievements. I'm going to quickly figure out what it is analogous to. I do think that's a good one for us to know. 4s are always about foundation. That's what that is always about. Rest and rejuvenate, passionate video game. Yeah. Be open to receive as you've worked hard and have given so much. Allow the universe to give a little back to you. For there has to be an even exchange of giving and receiving in order to prime the pump of gratitude and reinforce the law of attraction. Using the more traditional meaning in the tarot, this card represents a period for celebration, peace, and prosperity. It may also imply a marriage or the buying of land or a new home as you enjoy this time of relaxation that you so deserve. Know that nothing remains stagnant. The winds of change are always at your door. Okay. I think that Gemini tends to have a resistance to really going there, but I get the feeling that you've sort of been through the emotional ringer lately, that you've really been going through a challenging time and you're coming out, and perhaps this is just like to allow you to see that you have built a more firm foundation than perhaps you are recognizing. It could also mean that you're moving. It could mean that you have found a new home. This is all very legitimate in terms of the interpretation, but I really feel that this has a lot to do with your emotional world, even though it's wand energy, and that emotional satisfaction. It's got that rainbow above it, which reminds me of the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck, the 10 of Cups. It has a big rainbow over it as well. So there's a link there. I think it really has a lot to do with you coming out of a pretty dark period, but coming out with lessons learned and ones that are going to stick with you, even though it was really, really challenging. And also recognizing perhaps for the first time that going into the shadow and that moon energy isn't, I mean, it was hard, but it's not as bad as you thought. Really, really recognizing, I hope you know, I hope you're getting this message from Spirit. You are the High Priestess. You are fully capable. You do not have to be afraid. And I really, really, really want you to internalize that message and embody it. The High Priestess, along with the Queen of Wands and the Empress. They are like my favorite archetypes. They really jive with me and the energy that I want to create and maintain in my life. And I think that I get very excited when I see the High Priestess because she is an energy of mystery, not necessarily of secrets, but of beautiful, beautiful things to be found within the darker places of our psyche. You know, you wouldn't see the stars shining, which are actually suns in outer space anyways, if it was not dark, right? That's one of the things that's very enjoyable about the nighttime, right? And we don't necessarily like the sunrise better than the sunset. They're both beautiful, but they both have a different energy to them, a different flavor to them. Yeah. So something to focus on and really, really give yourself a pat on the back for the foundation that you have now built from doing that work, and what an achievement that truly is. Now we get 2 chakra cards. We've got the solar plexus, which to me isn't necessarily very Gemini energy, but I'm thinking of some Geminis in my life who are like very sunshiny, beautiful, wonderful people, very motivated people, right? And I think that perhaps there is some healing that still needs to be done on that realm. Perhaps the motivation hasn't completely come back yet. Maybe we're still hurting a little bit from the situation. There's also immediately followed by the sacral chakra card. So your sexual energies as well. So we could be talking about relationship, coming out of heartbreak, feeling a little bit less gusto and enthusiasm for life than we're used to feeling, but getting back on our feet. Whatever the process was, it was quite the blow. It was big. It was transformative, potentially karmic relationship. So, just wanting to look at this card here. So this one is the Suffering in Silence card. It's the 9 of Wands. And in this deck, even though it says Suffering in Silence, which maybe is what you were doing while you were going through this process, it's a much more positive looking card than the one in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith. So this here is, it's really, I love how the colors are very much in alignment with the chakra healing that's happening for you on the solar plexus. So your power center, your identity, your strength, your oomph, your drive, and then the relational sexual realm. You're doing some sexual healing. There's nothing wrong with that. But having felt that you were suffering in silence for quite a long time, this person who's suffering in silence actually is seeing the sun rising over the mountains. It's hard to see what is in between, recognizing that the path is not necessarily clear at this point, but the sun has risen, right? You're not trapped in darkness, which is amazing. And it's really, really pointing to the fact that the healing is coming to a completion, and that's really, really something to focus on. Really, really bring your energy back around to your achievement, what you have processed, how you've healed, reflect on it, journal on it, really, really important. And the moving on card, stepping towards the light, moving back, having done the process, and being like, okay, I'm going to take my little compass and see where it guides me now. But it's certainly stepping out of the shadow and into the light. That's beautiful. That's really, really beautiful. And I think it's very integral in terms of your healing, Gemini, stepping right into a new beginning, 0 Fool energy. And she's got her bag, she's got her staff. She, he, they, doesn't really matter. It's just about embodying the energy of the Fool. This is the beginning of a new cycle for you, and you are really, really bringing new knowledge with you. If you think of the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck, the traditional tarot, the Fool has a satchel over his back, the sack, just in the way that she has a purse or satchel, really makes me think about lessons learned. So considering that perhaps time is not linear and that we are coming back around to familiar challenges and going, uh-oh, is this my pattern? Am I coming back? Am I getting stuck? Oh no, I've dealt with this before. But every time that you come back around, you're coming with new knowledge and you're actually in an upward spiral. That is the Fool's journey, the heroine's journey, the hero's journey, the path towards enlightenment. And you are coming with things, knowledge, lessons, skills, all of this in your spiritual bank account that you've been filling up by doing this more challenging process. You had to work for it, Gemini. That's just how it went. But now you're getting recognition and reward. Things are coming through. And what's interesting, what stands out to me about this is that the figure is like, it's bowing and the figure is looking down. And I get the sense that, it's still feeling kind of embedded in the process, still being like, oh no, there's still more to do, and shaken up by it. And there was so much. And it's like you're being encouraged to lift your head towards the light, moving on towards the light, really, really taking those forward steps into your new identity. Having done this healing, you might be having trouble recognizing it, but you're slowly awakening to being recognized as so much more than you thought you were before. I think that Geminis can have a real light airiness to you, making light of things when it's sort of like a defense mechanism, but it's preventing yourself from healing in ways that are really necessary for you to get grounded. Because in order to be an integrated human being, we need to address all of these areas of our life and try to have balance. And lovely Libra season is bringing us towards establishing balance within ourselves. That's the energy of this month, and that's what we want to do. So you need to recognize the foundation that you've built and the achievements. You really, really do. And it's going to be coming from an external place, and that might be hard for you to accept. But once you do internally accept and recognize what you've transformed into, how much stronger you are, what you've learned, actually building more self-esteem and more self-confidence. And that comes through giving yourself self-compassion. That is the bridge. There's lots of psychological studies to show that. The work of Dr. Kirsten Neff, I'm not sure. Anyways, look it up if you're interested in self-compassion research. But in contemporary psychology, shows that, the bridge to self-love really is having compassion for yourself, less of a focus on trying to fluff up our self-esteem. It's really building strength and, I was going to say strength and character, but, identity through recognizing your emotional strength, right? Being able to navigate stormy seas and still maintain an even keel, if that makes sense. So recognition and reward is coming. That's really, really beautiful. I'm going to clarify a few cards. What do I want to clarify here? Foundation and achievements. I want some clarity on that guy. Oh, now you have 3 chakra cards on the table right now. Third eye chakra. This is your psychic ability, whatever that means to you. I think everyone's psychic to a certain extent. It just sort of means tapping into your intuition. The foundation and achievements has been you really coming into a place of understanding of your own mystic divine being, which maybe you had been in resistance to in the past. Sort of there's spirituality and then there's spiritual bypassing. So you could have been a spiritual person before, but a person who was I only focus on the positive, good vibes only, that sort of thing, and not having a recognition of the shadow self. And unfortunately, that's just not integrated. I think that this idea that the mind, so they speak of this in some spiritual circles, the mind is just a prison, just open the door and walk free. And it's well, I can tell you as someone who's working towards being a counselor and therapist, that is not a trauma-informed approach. That is something that could really invalidate someone's experience when they're going through something hard. And ultimately, it's not integrated, mature, and healthy, right? So it's an oversimplification and it's spiritual bypassing. And that is something that I have seen before, even in myself with my Gemini energy. And then sort of had my tower moment a few years ago and really had to do the work and be okay. So yes, I do want to think positively, but I can't force myself to think something if it feels untrue. So instead, giving the negative emotions an opportunity to have their voice, say what they need to say, I give it space, and then they wander off those negative emotions and make room for more positive ones to come in naturally on their own instead of forcing it. That's what this is all about. Really tapping into your spiritual self, true grounded spiritual healing. There is so much chakra healing on this table right now. It is beautiful. I am so proud of my Geminis. This is good stuff. What is this suffering and silence card all about for October 2019? Well, doesn't say what it was about specifically, but hey there's a giant sun and there's a person in that sun. Sometimes to me, this can represent fertility, possibly, or hope in regards to a certain relationship. I get the sense that my Geminis have been hurting, and this is really a focus on self-love. Coming out of that suffering and silence, acknowledging that the sun is poking through those clouds and is going to burn off them all into brilliant blue sky. And I want you to keep focusing on that hope. It's maintaining, keeping your eye on the prize. So you can still think positively and go, okay, this is really hard right now. I'm going to give it compassion. The process itself is the moon energy. But we keep our eye on the prize. We don't get lost in it and go, I can't heal from this, it's too hard, I'm never going to overcome it. It's like, no, I can see that this process is really intense, but I'm going to come out the other side, and at the end of it, I'm going to come out stronger, and I remain hopeful, right? It's so bright, it's blinding. Can't even see it on the camera. Let's clarify the moving on card. What's the moving on card? Please clarify the moving on card for Gemini, October 2019. What does Gemini need to know about the moving on card? Ooh, there goes. Oh my gosh, this is the third reading, I think, in a row. That's gotten this card, Patience and Planning. Patience and Planning, it's Pentacle energy. Yeah, okay, so I'm just going to go to the book on this one because it's come out so many times, and I feel like there's probably a very specific message in here. Good things come to those who wait. Okay, so it's moving on from one scenario that was not serving you into a space where you are willing to wait for something better. That's very, very clear. Just so you know that I did not read that, but that's very, very clear if it's coming in under the moving on card. Okay, so it's being willing to wait for something better because you deserve something better. Okay, and that does mean some alone time. You will not be completely alone. There are other people in your life if this was a really important relationship to you. So romantic relationship, family relationship, friendship. We're moving on from something that was significantly painful. It's recognizing that there is a certain period of time where we will not necessarily have that person in our life, but we're making space for better things to come in. This card signifies the qualities of patience and letting go of control. You should now pause, rest, assess, and rethink what's in front of you before continuing. The number 7 physical card reminds you to reevaluate the goals that you're seeking, your finances, and even your relationships. Take the time to review each area one by one, for there's no rush when you're planning for a successful future. As you pause during this period, notice what has worked well for you in the past, not what you or others believe to be true, but in actual positive experiences. While you're at this reflecting stage, you can stand back and plan how you're going to handle potentially difficult, complex decisions and situations that may arise in the future. So this is a true, I don't think that, some people are better than others, but in terms of like only comparing yourself to yourself, this is a true leveling up for my Geminis. This is, see those 2 pillars? See those 2 pillars? Ooh. The High Priestess energy is in full force with the decision to move on. Okay? And the moving on brings the healing. It's moving out of silently suffering. But even while that suffering was happening, you always knew, because my Geminis know, they've got that sunshine, they've got that sparkle. The Geminis know that there is something better. The difficult part is accepting that it was difficult, that this happened, and integrating it instead of pushing it away. We are going to do, what are we going to do? We're going to do a Goddess Guidance card. You're the only people that this deck jumped out at me, but I really feel like my Geminis need some Goddess Guidance energy right now. I'm going to ask Spirit, what does Gemini need to know? That's a lot. Try that again. What does Gemini need to know for October 2019? Go outside. You have been indoors too long. Go outside and get some fresh air. Go outside. I love that she's got little seashells in her hair. I thought they were mushrooms for a second. Cordelia. I'm actually going to go to the book and see if there's anything else in here that might be helpful for us. I feel like my Geminis need some love. You've been indoors too long. Go outside and get some fresh air. Being cooped up is not the natural way for inhabitants of this exciting planet to live. Believe me, there's plenty to see and experience when you exit the 4 walls and roof. A daily venture outside will not only revive your spirit and soul, it will give you hope and faith in this planet's very existence and future. Might be experiencing some eco grief. that is a common thing right now. You'll see all the goodness that's in store within nature, the flowers ready to unfurl, the leaves that are sprouting, the birds that hop about. Now I know that we're moving into autumn, but do try, even if you're living in a city, to go find some nature. It does exist. Really try to connect with that. Go outside. Even if where you live it's snowy, that is nature as well. Don't let another day go by without stepping outdoors into this most entertaining and exciting of environments. Various meanings of this card. Your manifestation will appear in May. It's a bit of a long time to wait, but hey, we can be manifesting lots of different things. Or when the weather is warmer, so maybe you're going somewhere warm, then what you want to manifest will manifest. Spending time in nature, change to a job that allows more connection with nature, practice environmentalism. Woohoo! Recognize the need for balance in your life, for more rest and play. Yeah, so I think perhaps it's feeling kind of wintry on the spiritual level, but for you, even though seasonally we're actually moving towards autumn and winter, the moving on card looks like it's moving from autumn into spring and summer. So in that realm, in your mental space, things are going to be getting easier. Absolutely, as you're moving into the spring, summer of your emotional self. So that is very exciting news and a good time of year for that to actually be happening. Do one more really quick. What does Gemini need to know? October. Yeah. So there have been feelings of chaos and conflict, right? It's amazing how much resonance there is with like the colors in these images. The clouds are parting, but there was definitely a part of you that really felt like it was shattered by this situation or this relationship, but parts were like, you see that there's bits of the zebra falling off, and then underneath is actually a giraffe that hasn't quite sprouted its neck yet. Parts that were lost were the 3D external things. Maybe you lost the person, you lost the relationship. You didn't lose yourself. It may have felt that way, but you didn't, I promise. You are actually about to sprout, apparently, a long neck if you're going to become a giraffe. And it's about being the observer. So the observer is a very gentle and compassionate energy. It's about having that compassion for yourself at this time as you're working towards releasing the old self that was associated with that relationship into the new self, which is associated with moving on, having patience, planning, and really, really focusing on how far you've come, which is the foundation and achievements. Yeah, keeping your eye on the prize with that hope card. Gemini, I hope that this was helpful to you, sending you so much love and healing, and I will see you very soon.